Hello children, welcome back to the class. Today we'll discuss a few important questions in the chapter Our Environment. So let us see the questions. So what is meant by an environment? An environment is an area where a living organism, an animal, a plant lives, survives. That is called an environment. What is an ecosystem? Ecosystem is a part of environment which includes biotic and abiotic factors. Biotic factors means living things like plants, animals, microorganisms. And abiotic factors means non-living things like temperature, water, air, minerals. So all these abiotic factors. So an ecosystem includes biotic and abiotic factors. So that is ecosystem. Different types of ecosystems are there: forest ecosystem, desert ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem, different ecosystem. But in all these ecosystems, both biotic and abiotic factors exist together. Both are interdependent. Each one is dependent on the other. Okay, that is ecosystem. What is a food chain and food paper? So what is food chain? Food chain is the flow of energy, unidirectional flow of energy in the form of food from one organism to another organism, forming a chain like structure that is called as a food chain. So that is a unidirectional flow of energy in the form of a food which flows from one organism to another organism. Each level in the food chain is called trophic level. And what is food web? Multi-directional flow of energy in a particular ecosystem. That means each chain is interlinked with each other and forms a web-like structure that is called food web. So energy in the form of food enters in a multi-directional ways and form a web-like structure that is called as food web. And what is a trophic level? So, in a food chain, the energy flows from an organism to another organism. Each level is called a trophic level. Give an example of a food chain. So, that is what is, give an example of food chain. Let us take grass. It's a producer. Grass is eaten by insect. It is a primary consumer. Insect is eaten by frog, secondary consumer. And frog is eaten by snake, tertiary consumer, and snake is eaten by hawk, that is a top level consumer. It means a food chain includes a number of trophic levels, usually two or three or four trophic levels. So first level is called producers, plants, and the second one, which depends on plants, herbivores, they are called primary consumers, and which are dependent on consumers, they are called secondary consumers, which depend on herbivores, they are called secondary consumers, tertiary consumer, like that the chain goes on, and top level consumer. So that is different trophic levels. So any food chain always starts with producers, that is autotrophs, that you have to remember. And what is niche? So niche is a word which is used to indicate a specific place of an organism in the food web, depending upon its habitat, food habits, and where it lives. Depending on this, a specific place is there for each and every organism. That particular place is called niche. And what is the role of decomposers in an ecosystem? So, what is the role? Decomposers are, they are also called as saprophytes, like bacteria and fungi. They decompose the dead parts of plants and animals, and they get their nutrients, and they get their food by decomposing, and they act like scavengers. They clean the earth surface and they supply raw materials for the plants to synthesize their food material. So that is the main function of decomposers. So they decompose the dead parts of plants and animals, and they always almost keep the environment clean. Bacteria and fungi, we can take the example of decomposers. And expand UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. or United Nations Environment Program, that is called UNEP. So which is working on controlling the production of CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which deplete ozone layer. Okay, so they are taking care of environment and they want to stop the depletion of ozone layer. So let us see what is ozone layer. So what is biological accumulation and biological magnification? So biological accumulation, that means various chemicals that enter into an ecosystem, they accumulate, they pollutes, the pollutants enter into the food chain. So entry of pollutants into the food chain is called biological accumulation, and this accumulation is magnified in the top level consumer, that is called biological magnification. So entry of pollutants into the food chain is called biological accumulation, and magnification, that means the concentration of the pollutants in the top level consumer, that's called as a biological magnification. So how ozone molecule is formed? What is the function of, what is its function at a higher altitude? So ozone layer, that is oxygen molecule, one oxygen molecule combines with one oxygen atom to form three oxygen molecules, which is called as ozone layer. So that is, so at Earth's surface it is poisonous, but in the outer surface, Earth's surface, it forms a shield-like structure which protects the Earth atmosphere from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. So it's what is its function means ozone layer at higher altitude shields the Earth's surface and prevents the entry of ultraviolet rays from the sun, UV rays. What is the effect of depletion of ozone layer? How depletion occurs? So that is depletion of ozone layers. Chlorofluorocarbons, CFC. Chlorofluorocarbons are the main chemical substances which are depleting the ozone layer. That means large holes are formed in the ozone layer, and actually ozone layer prevents the entry of ultraviolet rays into the Earth's atmosphere. So that is when ozone layer is getting depleted, the ultraviolet rays enter into the Earth's surface, and naturally the ultraviolet rays cause various diseases on human health. That what is the effect of ultraviolet rays on human health? So that means man loses, when man is constantly exposed to ultraviolet rays, UV rays, his immune system will get affected, and he may suffer with skin cancer also. Constant exposure to ultraviolet rays will affect human health. So what is the role of decomposers? So that is we have already discussed. So decomposers, they always degrade the dead parts of plants and animals, and they make raw materials available for the plants to synthesize food materials. What will happen if we kill all the organisms in one trophic level? So in a food chain, if we kill the organisms at one trophic level, what happens? That means let us imagine food chain consists of producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, like this. Suppose we remove, let us say that is producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and top level consumers. So what happens? Producers. So we are removing, so producers, let us say plants, and primary consumers, let us say rabbit. So rabbit is eaten by tiger, let us say tiger or something. So suppose if we remove this primary consumer, what will happen? The plant population will increase, and the tiger will not get its food. So what happens? The tiger will die for want of food and plant population will increase. That means the total ecosystem is getting disturbed. So that means if we remove all the organisms in one trophic level, what happens? The lower trophic level, the population of lower trophic level will increase and higher trophic level will not get its food. That is why there is a total imbalance in the ecosystem will take place. Okay, and how much amount of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level in the food chain. That means only 10% of energy, that is biomass means the organic substance that is present in an organism which can be converted into energy. So that is only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. And how much of energy from sunlight is captured by green plant? That means green plant can take only 1% of sunlight. That means which it captures only 1% of sunlight. Okay, so these are all the some questions and hope you have understood. So environment means where the area where an organism, a plant, an animal survives. That is called environment. An ecosystem, different ecosystems are there which include biotic and abiotic factors. Food chain and food web. Unidirectional flow of energy in the form of food is called a food chain, and multi-directional flow, interlinked food chains. It's called a food web. Trophic level in a food chain, each level is called trophic level. So, an example of food chain produces primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers like the plant. Herbivores, carnivores, top level consumer like this. What is niche? Niche is a specific place of an organism in the food web depending upon its habit and habitat. That is called niche. What is the role of decomposers? Means they decompose dead parts of plants and animals and they get their nutrients. And expanding United Nations Environment Program. What is biological accumulation and biological magnification? Entry of pollutants into the food chain is called biological accumulation, and concentration of the pollutants in the top level consumer is called biological magnification. So how ozone molecule is formed? Ozone, that means one oxygen molecule combines with one oxygen atom forming ozone molecule. That means ozone molecule contains 3 oxygen atoms, and so it forms a shield and it prevents entry of ultraviolet rays from the sun into the Earth's surface. So what is the effect of depletion of ozone layer? That means when ozone layer gets depleted, the ultraviolet rays enter into the Earth's surface. How depletion occurs? That means various chemical substances like chlorofluorocarbons. So they mainly important substances which cause a depletion in the ozone layer. What is the effect of ultraviolet rays on human health? So when the ozone layer gets depleted, what happens? The ultraviolet rays enter into the Earth's surface. When man is constantly exposed to ultraviolet rays, his immunity system is affected and he may get skin cancer also. Okay, next one, what is the role of decomposers? Again, repeated question. That means they decompose bacteria and fungi. They are also called as saprophytes. So they act on dead parts of plants and animals. So they clean the surface in decomposing and converting in them into raw materials, which in turn enter into the plant bodies, which synthesize their food material. What will happen if we kill all the organisms in one trophic level? That means suppose if we totally remove one trophic level, the organisms present in one trophic level, what happens? The lower trophic level will increase in its population, abnormally increases in its population, but a higher trophic level will not get their food and they die for want of food. That is so totally environmental imbalance will take place. Next, how much amount of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level? Means only 10% of energy. So that means if we take it forms, so if we take a number into consideration, consideration, if we take energy into consideration, from one organism to another organism, gradually the number usually will decrease and energy also gradually decreases. Only 10% of energy will be transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. How much of energy from sunlight is captured by green plants? Only 1% of sunlight the plants can capture for the process of photosynthesis. So these are the questions, and we shall continue with a few more questions in the same chapter. Okay, hope you have understood. Thank you.